Well, hello everyone. As you know, we're kind of in a hiatus with the Rumble Mumble through the off season, but we had such a great storyline and success, Kyle, with the story that we did with Don and Mel Kenyon up at the 3K shop. We thought, what the heck? Let's keep doing like a monthly feature.
Yeah, and there's so many people like to choose from that run the Rumble, and I mean, what better way to follow it up than with the very own Mike Fedorcak?
Yeah, so we're up here in Yoder, Indiana, and we're in the world headquarters of Mike Fedorcik. Mike, tell us about this place.
This place was built in 1979 as a result of me being more involved in racing, basically. I started out in a two-car garage at my parents' house, which is located also on the property, with a Ben Cook car that I purchased from Jeff Knuckles back in 1978, I believe it was. So it got too big for that building, and then I built this building.
Now, going back to the Jeff Knuckles car, earlier we were talking, and kind of a neat story is you tell me you went into the Rumble, walked in, looked down, and the first car you saw was that famous maroon 57.
Yep. Looking Cool was on the hood. That was their sponsor. And that you go up the stairs of the Coliseum, you look on the floor of the hockey rink, and that was like the first car I saw go by, and like, man, that's a cool looking car.
So you ended up buying it.
I ended up buying it.
Okay. So what all goes on in this shop?
Wow.
The abridged version.
A lot of stuff.
You probably can't tell some of the stories.
Oh, there's not really any X-rated stories that go on here, but just a lot of memories. My dad spent a lot of time at that bandsaw over there, and we shared a lot of time out here when I originally formed 2cc Racing. He was probably one of the reasons I kept profitable, is because he was cheap labor. But at that time I wanted to make a living out of racing. I was still working at International Harvester for a little bit, but when I got laid off from them and eventually terminated because they left town, then I went into this shop full time and made my living at it ever since. I mean, I've been here full time in here since like 1982. So he allowed me to, kind of not make as much money as I could, but still be profitable.
Now, just doing fabrication work or just all racing related work?
At first it was pretty much all racing related stuff. And then eventually through contacts in racing I got outside work. Eventually got hooked up with some people over at the Fort Wayne Airport that did aircraft maintenance and did some welding on aircraft parts, and one of my car owners for the race car was involved with a big company down in Cincinnati that makes stainless steel parts. He had a need for a stainless steel rinse pipe assembly, and I'm still making those for the company now that owns it. It's been sold like 3 times, but that's one of my major jobs I still do, is just a result of a car owner I drove for.
Wow.
Now, before the show, we were kind of talking about some of the cool stuff that's came out of here. What was your, what's been your biggest accomplishment to come out of the shop? Or maybe just one of the funnest things that you've worked on.
Well, obviously the Munchkin was a major thing. After the Munchkin, being involved with Unlimited Air Racer that was based over here at Fort Wayne Air Service, that raced out in Reno.
Mm-hmm.
Being involved with that was kind of a cool thing to do. I actually designed and built a remote wireless welding pedal. I got a patent on it. That was in '96, I believe it was, and actually showed my design to executives at Miller Electric in Appleton, and they sat on it for 7 years and didn't do anything with it. And I didn't do anything with it. I mean, I was too busy trying to make a living and provide for my daughter, basically, to spend more time on my patent and developing it. Although I had the prototype that I took up to Appleton and demonstrated to them. We can maybe get a picture of that later on. But although it didn't really make any money, I was pretty proud of that, because now Miller and also I think there's one or two other companies are making remote welding pedals. So that was kind of a cool accomplishment. Some of the stuff that I fixed is kind of cool. That's a good question, because when I think about it, it's like there's stuff that goes on all the time that people say is cool, but I just don't think it's that big a deal anymore, I guess.
Let's go back. Your education that brought you into the ability to do all this stuff. What about you? Are you self-taught?
I'm educated.
Well, we know that, but I mean, did you take engineering in school, or?
I do have a associate degree in machine design from Tri-State College.
Okay.
And that came about as a result of wanting to work for International Harvester, which was the biggest employer here in town building heavy-duty trucks. They were pretty keen on taking graduates of Tri-State College. It's called Trine now, but it was Tri-State College back in the day. So my goal was to work for them. So in order to get there, I figured I'd just get a degree from Tri-State, which I did, and eventually ended up working for International Harvester. Although the first job after I graduated from college was cleaning chimneys. So that's how I started out, cleaning chimneys.
A chimney sweep.
Chimney sweep.
Yeah.
Another job I had before Harvester was an apprentice tool maker. So that was kind of a good background to have. I learned a little bit about machining tools and making things, designing things.
Now, were you racing at this
I worked
time?
for Grant King. King. Okay, that was in the late 70s, early 80s. The first welder I ever used was Grant's welder, an old Hobart, big old thing. I just asked him if I could use it one day, and he said, sure, pick it up, have a go at it. So I would go down to Grant's on weekends. He was building what they called a heavy East Coast modified, and they just called them heavies. He had built 2 or 3 of them, but had no drawings of them. A mutual friend named Lonnie Cole, who had actually owned Cole Pattern and Engineering here in Fort Wayne, suggested to Grant that I do drawings for him. So I would drive down there on weekends on my motorcycle in the summertime.
Wow.
900 Kawasaki, baby. So I'd do that on weekends and hung out. I got to hang out a little bit with the IndyCar stuff. Ended up being on a crew for him 1 or 2 years when Gary Bettenhausen drove for him and Sheldon Kinzer.
Wow.
Also the year they had Evel Knievel as a sponsor. That was pretty cool.
It's kind of fitting.
Yeah. So that was really kind of what shaped my racing career, is just being around Grant. I mean, gosh,
Gotcha.
talk about a guy that worked. I don't think, the only time I ever saw him sleep, he'd be on the phone in the middle of a phone conversation and just, he'd just fall asleep in his chair. And that's the only time I ever knew that he slept.
Wow.
I mean, him and Doris just were at it all the time, and especially during the month of May. He's a busy guy. And talk about a work ethic. Just a pretty cool guy. A character for sure.
Sure.
So where in that timeline did you start to get behind the wheel?
It wasn't until, that would be, like I said, the early 80s, or mid 70s to late 70s. One side story is, in Grant's shop, Doug Carruthers' number 2 car was there.
Okay.
And one evening when nobody was around, I snuck over to the side that car was on, and I sat in it.
Uh-oh.
It's like, man,
Kid in a candy store.
I want to do this, because I had watched that car run at the Indy Coliseum at Fort Wayne when Vogler was driving. It's like, I got to sit in this thing. So it's like the juices started flowing then, and I've got to do this. But it was before I owned a car myself, of course. So yeah, that pretty much formed me right there and sold me that I wanted to race midget someday. And I kind of forgot what the question was.
When you kind of got behind the wheel. Actually, when did Mike Fedorcik start racing?
That would be late 79, 1980.
I see.
The Villa Speedway. Barry Butterworth was on his tour of the United States, and he was one of the persons I got to race against. Or not against, I got to be passed by him.
Oh.
Because I didn't even know what end of the track I was on the first time out. I mean, guys were going around me just like, how in the heck can they go that fast? So yeah, that was another notable thing, was that he actually was on the track the same time I was.
Well, there's so many stories in this building, and there's just no way, Kyle, we can do that in one segment. So I think we really are going to have to break this up and you know, kind of get to see the shop and everything. But I know, I don't know if it's in focus or not, but one thing that I know we're going to talk to Mike about is back there is the original Munchkin, and I can't wait till you get to talk to him and hear more about that Munchkin. But Mike, as I walk around, I see, I'm hoping you'll give me a tour, but earlier I saw a quarter midget, a 600, a Munchkin, the jigs for the Munchkin, a boat, a boat anchor or motor, and just
A golf,
what is not in this building?
golf cart.
Oh, the golf cart.
Cart's
Okay.
on the other side.
What?
Motorcycle.
Do you know what all is in here?
There's stuff that might surface that I haven't seen for a long time. I know there's a motorcycle buried over there, my first motorcycle.
Wow.
1971 Honda Scrambler.
Oh, and then there's a little Cooper, a mini car that he had in New Zealand. We'll
Mini.
get to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so much. But you know, I kind of have to ask you this. None of us are getting any younger, Mike.
No.
And such a collection you have here. Where do you see? What do you see happening with all of this stuff down the road?
I see like a Haraz auction, you know.
Oh, that'd be huge.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
No, I'm actually just trying to gradually downsize and not take any more projects in, not take any more of the, oh, that looks cool, I'm going to do something with that someday. Refuse any of that. I was recently, I did some kind of a interview for some health screening or something at my house, and they wanted to give me a parting present, a little gift for my time. It's like, nah, I don't want any more presents. I got too much stuff already. And as soon as you see the video of this shop, you'll see what I'm talking about. But my house is not nearly this bad, but it could be if I didn't say no. So my policy now is just say no to new stuff coming in. As far as my own personal projects, I still do take work in, of course, but my own personal projects, like, nah, I want to finish that Munchkin. I've got the Morris Mini to, you know, to restore a little bit, get it going. Outboard motor, I want to work on. Just all these little projects. Like somebody like Jeff Haywood, now he gets them done. He's got projects, but he gets them. That's the difference between Jeff Haywood and me. I don't get the stuff done. It just sits.
But you get them started.
I get them started.
There you go. The intent.
The intent's there.
Good.
Thanks, Larry. That's the words I was looking for.
Okay. Who are some of the hot dogs that have been in this building with you? Some of the superstars.
Larry?
Well, no, real superstars.
Rusty Hartman, who was a local Fort Wayne driver, who drove for my father in the coupes back in the day, back at the Fort Wayne Speedway. They raced at Kokomo, Warsaw. He visited here. I think he lives in California, but about 15 or 20 years ago, he visited here. He raced a car for my dad. I've got a picture of that car up there on the wall. He was one of my idols when I was growing up, and he ended up, when he was visiting back here from California, he came to this shop and actually sat in the Munchkin. And I've got a picture of him sitting, of my dad's driver sitting in my race car that I did. And that was pretty.
That's quite a storyline. Yeah.
Stan Fox spent maybe a day here. He was in town after his accident. He stayed with me in Fort Wayne. and we came out here and we spent a little bit of time out here. But I'm trying to think of some other notable people. Tony Stewart's never been here.
Is that right?
Never been here.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That was kind of an unexpected question. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, not a problem. So this is kind of the introduction to what's going to be a great little series here, and you have some time you can take us and walk us around?
Time is on my side.
There you go.
We got-
Okay, once again, we're up here in downtown Yoder, Indiana, the world headquarters for Mike Fedorcik, and just kind of a Rumble Mumble special that we're bringing to you. And we'll go ahead and close this segment up, and I just can't wait for part number 2.